I've been lifting weights for 19 years, and out of those years, for 10 of them, I have been a personal trainer, face-to-face and online. And I've made a ton of mistakes, but I've also done a few really good things which have really helped me get some great results for myself and for my clients. And today I'm going to show you what I did terribly and what you can do to avoid it. Especially, this video goes out to the young Brock Ashby that had no idea what he was doing. So if you've been lifting for 5 years or less, you've come across a gold mine. So let me first write the traps that I fell for. So one of the first mistakes that I made, not straight away, but that I did make after I had been lifting for about 4 years, I didn't eat enough. I got really obsessed with getting lean. And looking lean is great, having a low body fat percentage with a high amount of muscle mass. If you want to have a physique that turns heads, that's where you start. The only thing was, I took it too far. So after I cut for about a month, I looked really great because I maintained all my muscle mass. But the thing is, I got lean and then I got skinny because I wasn't eating enough for way too long. And because I'd only been training for about 4 years, I didn't have much muscle mass. And when you don't eat enough, when you're in a calorie deficit for an extended amount of time, that is a recipe for low muscle mass. Because your body's just constantly in this energy deficit. And what I was eating, which is really, really low, for someone that was 6 foot and weighing around 90 kilos, I was on 1,500 calories. To give you perspective, that's what I give my female dieting clients. So I train someone that is almost 50 years old, and she weighs 51 kilos, and her dieting calories to lose weight is 1,500 calories. I was on that amount of calories for over 3 months, every single day. I was training twice a day sometimes. And I was 6 foot and I was 90 kg. So I was rapidly losing weight. And then I just got so fixated on this 1,500 calorie number that I just got obsessed. And I was calorie tracking and I kept on eating less, eating less, eating less. And I was looking in the mirror going, man, I'm looking lean, I'm looking good. And I did after about 4 weeks. But that last 8 weeks, looking back now, I looked troubled. I looked sick. I was skinny, and my girlfriend at the time would tell me, like, stop, you look sick. And I was in such a manic mode. I was talking about this on my podcast with Minno Henselmans, which I can put somewhere here. And I was just like, she doesn't get it. She doesn't get the lifestyle that I live. I'm such a go-getter. I am a gangster. I can just do anything. I do hard things. I am David Goggins. And that led me to go all the way down from about 90 kilos all the way down to 69 kg. So that is a 21 kg difference. And I got so obsessed. I went extremely keto, and then I went intermittent fasting. I started off with the lean gains method, which was popularized early on. It was like you fast for 16 hours and you eat for 18 hours. So often it was wait till midday and then eat till 8 p.m. and then fast for the rest of the time. You can have water, coffee, tea, just no calories. I did that, and then I kept diving. And I ended up moving to the warrior diet, which is fasting for 20 hours and eating for 4 because of these so-called benefits, getting leaner, less brain fog, cellular autophagy, la-di-da. But ultimately it just meant that I ate less and less calories because you can't eat many calories in only 4 hours of eating. And then I took it even more extreme and I was like, you know what? Let's do 1 meal a day. What the hell? We're already only eating for 4 hours. Let's just do it for 1 or 2 hours. So I was fasting for basically 22 hours a day and then having one big dinner. And I was telling myself, I'm feeling great, I'm looking good. But looking back, I was constantly fixated on what I was going to eat. I couldn't eat enough. So I was constantly losing weight. I was unproductive at work. It was a different time in my life. I was doing music, but I was really struggling. And looking back now, I would never do it. I would never trade that in for how I feel now, being properly fueled. So I wasn't eating enough, and within that, I wasn't eating enough carbs. So carbohydrates, obviously the preferred fuel source of the body, especially for training, because we use something called glycogen. But I was basically scared of carbohydrates. I would try to limit to 50 or under. I was tracking everything in my fitness pal. I was eating canned tuna. I was having almonds, but it wasn't a quarter cup. It wasn't 1 cup of almonds. It was 17 or it was 10, because I knew that it was 7 calories per almond. And if I had 20, then that was going to be 140 calories. So I was getting so obsessed, I'd carry these Ziploc bags with almonds in them, and just looking back, man, I had an eating disorder, I just wasn't diagnosed. It really wasn't a good time, but I just kind of like pushed through it. And on the back of that, in terms of the next trap that I fell for, let me bring it out. And this is, I guess, less of a physiological thing, but more so a psychological thing. I was going batshit crazy, right? I had this idea in my head that there was good versus bad food, okay? So cakes, ice creams, donuts, pizza, bad food. Brock bad if eat. Brock good if eat lean protein, if eat vegetable, if eat egg, if eat high protein milk. Then Brock good. But if Brock eat chocolate, then Brock bad. So I was in this constantly bouncing back and forward from good to bad, and it made me develop a very terrible relationship with food, where I was scared of eating out. So I was scared, here we go, let's go like this. I was scared of eating out because I didn't know what was on the menus. I didn't know what they were putting in their food. I didn't know if I could track the food that they had or if it was going to be accurate. I didn't want to have too many calories, and that made my life less social. It made me a bore to be around. Mate, I was like 18 years old, meant to be, you know, living the teen dream, and I was at home eating canned tuna in spring water, not even in olive oil, in spring water, counting my almonds. It was depressing, looking back at it. I would have much rather just, mate, embraced the 80-20 rule, which I live by now. 80% nutritious, 20% delicious, you know, mostly healthy, a little bit of fun. The 80-20 rule. That's what I wish I did. Instead, I went down this terrible relationship with food, which ultimately led me to something which is, you know, very sad, and a lot of people struggle with it in the fitness industry but don't want to talk about it. I had a binge eating disorder for about 3 years. So I would eat so healthy and so clean for most of the day. I remember when I was a personal trainer in Auckland, I started off in City Fitness on Queen Street, and this was when I was a personal trainer. So you think, mate, this guy's got his shit together. He's helping people transform their bodies. He looks great. He's in great shape. I still am. I would start off the day with about 10 boiled eggs because it was clean eating. Bit of salt, bit of pepper, boiled eggs, still to this day, such an amazing taste, such an amazing meal for me, but I've got a basic palate, so I get it if you don't agree. And then around lunchtime, because I was such a busy face-to-face personal trainer, I had a lot of sessions in the day, I would just chug a protein shake and keep going. Right, so I'd have like eggs, a protein shake, I might have a protein bar somewhere. My diet was pretty crap in terms of nutritional variety. I didn't eat many fruit and vegetables and stuff. And then I'd get home, and because I'd been so disciplined and so clean and had worked so hard and had trained maybe once or twice that day, I had no energy left in the tank. So I would get home and I would just eat whatever, wherever, whenever, whoever, I would just eat it. I would eat it. Chocolate, pizza, McDonald's. I would go out and buy butter chicken. I would just eat random shit, even if I didn't feel like it. Block of cheese, I would just eat the whole block of cheese. Whole jar of peanut butter, all right, I'll just get a spoon and eat the whole thing. I wasn't even hungry, but I had this binge eating disorder because I was like good versus bad, and I spent all day trying to be good, and then I'd get home, have no discipline left. I think it's called discipline depletion. I had it. And then I just caved. And then I'd eat about 3,000, 5,000 calories in that sitting, be way over in a deficit. And I remember it hit once. I had a client, his name was Shark. Not Shark, Shark, Shipper or Skipper. And it was S-J-A-A-K. He was Dutch. I remember him saying to me distinctively, and I don't know why I don't forget this, I think it's because it was such a slap in the face. He said to me, "Oh, Brock, you're looking great. Like, you're looking a lot bigger. You're putting on a lot of muscle. Like, your bulk is going really well." And for him, what a great thing to say, complimenting your personal trainer. But for me, I was trying to lose weight. I was trying to get leaner. But I had this binge eating disorder that was so embarrassing I couldn't talk to anyone about, and it was secretive. So I'd be like, "Yeah, thank you, yeah, I'm trying to bulk." Really, I was trying to eat clean, but I was so obsessed with good versus bad that as soon as I had a little bit of the bad stuff, it would open up Pandora's box and I would just go mental. So this dichotomous way of thinking, black and white, good versus bad, it does not lead to a good path. It can help in some situations where you need guidelines to really break habits, or you really want to get an extreme transformation. All right, let's try the boot camp diet. Let's just go lean meat, fruit and veg, boom, that's all you're eating for 30 days. That can really turn your life around. But long term, that is not sustainable. And that leads to shitty quality of life, a shitty social life, and just a lot of limitations and restrictions that aren't really necessary for you to get good results. Nowadays, I'll have, 20% delicious, 80% nutritious, and still live a great life. I go out for dinner with my friends. I go out for dinner with my family. I order gelato with my wife. We had burgers last night, right? When it's our anniversary, sometimes we like to get butter chicken and have naan bread and all that stuff. It's great, right? And if I still lived like this, I would miss out on those times. Another thing that I did, let's get some green here. I didn't sleep enough. I didn't know the importance of sleep, and also I was in this kind of grind mode, and I just thought I had to work a lot, which I'm very grateful that I did in my teens and early 20s because it helped me get to where I am, and it gave me this projection to rise up, to figure out what hard work can get you. I didn't get caught up in partying or chasing girls or drugs or things that some people may fall into. So I am grateful that I went through this kind of monk mode, just wake up and work. But the only thing that I wasn't a fan of is that I didn't sleep enough. So I was always tired. My training was very poor. I think my energy and my vibe was just a bit off. I was like too obsessed, and people like didn't want to hang out with me. I could feel it. They did if I was on their team, if I was in business with them, or if I was in their band or singing for them, because I was driven. I would help train them, I'd pick them up, I'd take them there, I would go the extra mile. But I was so obsessed, and when you're not sleeping enough, you are missing out, especially with your training, on a lot of gains. So when we sleep, that's actually where we build and repair a lot of our muscles. So if you're skimping on that, you're skimping on your recovery. So if you really do want to train hard, and you want to train hard again, you want to try and optimize your sleep between 7 to 9 hours, because if you don't, it might take you longer to recover. And then if you go in training earlier, you might not be ready and you might injure yourself. I didn't injure myself because I wasn't strong enough, because I wasn't eating enough calories in the first place, and I wasn't really lifting that much weight, but I did skimp on my sleep, and I feel like that's not a good habit that you should do when you're early in training. When you are early in training, you are in the newbie gains era. Welcome. Anything you touch turns to muscle. You look at a barbell, your quads grow. You look at the chest press machine, your chest starts to grow. You look at the leg extension machine, your quads start to pop. That's what happens in the newbie gains era. So if you optimize your sleep when you're in this era of just training and like learning things and training hard, and before you get to the intermediate plateau and then the advanced plateau, newbie gains, you should be milking it. Sleep as much as you can. Recover as hard as you can so that you can train as hard as you can as well. So really lean into sleep. When I was at high school, because I started training when I was 14 years old, so I was at high school, I got a gym membership at 14 years old at my high school, and my sleep was locked in. Not for good reasons though, because I get migraines, so I was terrified of getting migraines because I got a few at school and ended up in the sick bay. I would vomit, I can't see, I'd lose my vision, and then I'd just feel sick for the entire day. So I was so terrified of migraine, I thought that sleeping 10 hours would help me, and it did. Getting lots of sleep does eliminate that factor for migraines. So I would go to sleep and get around 8 to 10 hours every night when I was at high school. So I was locked in. And I feel like that's why when I first started training, I got really good results, because my sleep was locked in. I digress. Anyway, I was young too, so that helps. But the last trap that I fell into is an important one. And I've trained a few 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds, and this is a debauchery for them long term. Let's just tell it how it is. They have poor technique. They have shit technique. When we start training, we obsess about lifting as much weight as possible. I get it. I did it too. I hurt my lower back quite a few times. So like I said, I got my gym membership when I was 14 years old. The problem with that is when I was a 14-year-old and I was about year 10 at school, in New Zealand we go up to year 13, there were year 13s training in that gym too, usually in the first 15 rugby team, so the top rugby team in the school. So here's me, this year 10, absolute dweeb looking nerd, small dude, looking at the big rugby guys, and I went to Christchurch Boys High School where a lot of All Blacks came out of, a lot of really talented rugby players, so they're built. They're training because they're playing top tier rugby for high school. And I would look at them, see what weights they're doing, see what exercises they're doing, take mental note, and then when they weren't there and it was just me and my mates training, of course, what do you think I'm gonna do? So I remember when I was year 12, year 13, so 16, 17, 18 years old, maybe 16, 17, I remember shrugging 200 kilos on the barbell. I could hardly hold it with my hands. And I was shrugging 200 kilos. I don't know what that is so 450 pounds. I was shrugging that at 16, 17 years old. And I would do it, but man, my back hurt all the time because I just had poor technique. I was trying to ego lift. So if you are just starting, focus on technique because I don't think my lower back's the same. I recently just herniated a disc. I put a YouTube video up where I explain that. I also got a broken pinky toe, but that's just separate. You really have to work on getting good technique because it builds great foundations for the future. If you move correctly, then you don't have to unteach bad habits like I do with clients for years and months. You can watch as many exercise tutorial videos as you want in the gym. You can do as many Jeff Nippard workouts or YouTube influencer workouts, but if your technique sucks, you're not going to get the results that you want. So number one, poor technique. What's the cost? Something that I'm facing right now, injury. You'll get injured. Okay, so the limit to your strength is your technique. If you don't have good technique, you're never going to be strong because you can't lift weights efficiently with poor technique because you're not loading the musculature. You're going to be loading your joints or loading your ligaments and tendons, which aren't designed to withstand that amount of weight with poor technique. So number one is injury. You're going to reach a strength limit. But number three, if you don't get injured, you're going to face a large amount of wear and tear. So, you know, prime example, Ronnie Coleman, right? Obviously, top of his sport, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. And I'm not saying he had poor technique, but he's been training a lot. And now he has so much wear and tear on the body. Even with him training with great technique, he can hardly walk. Now, he was dealing with extremely heavy weights. But if you're not training in a safe way, then the wear and tear on your joints is going to be much faster than someone training with good technique in the long run. So in terms of longevity, you're shooting yourself in the foot. All right, number four, just bad habits, right? Because these are things you're going to have to unteach later on, and it just slows your progress in the future. So these are the traps that I fell into. I know they're not the worst ones, but these really did slow my technique, slow my progress. But when I did improve my technique, improve my sleep, improve my thinking of my relationship with food, improve how much I eat, my physique really started to turn around. So those were the traps that I fell for. And let me just quickly run you through some things that I actually did really well. And, you know, these are very positive because, look, I'm still training today and I've even turned it into a career. You know, so obviously I did something right with fitness. Now, obviously, look, it's something that I enjoy. So if you do something you enjoy, you don't work a day in your life. Traps, what's the opposite of traps? I don't know. Let's just say it's just something I did right. That doesn't sound very smart, but here we are. I usually write like this, so I'm gonna write like that. I started young. Like I said, I started lifting weights at 14 years old, and that was a blessing. But even before that, I started doing push-ups at 12 years old. So I was very lucky. I had a teacher called Mr. Cunis when I was at intermediate school. So in New Zealand, for me, I had a primary school, and then there's an intermediate school, and then there's a high school. So in intermediate, this is year 7 and 8, so you're 11 and 12. I had a teacher called Mr. Cunis. Stephen Cunis was his name, like I said, and he was actually a black cap. So he played representative cricket for New Zealand. So the best, one of the best in the country. And he actually got me into exercise, and there was a beautiful teacher called Miss Colpin. I think her name was Anne Colpin. Beautiful lady. She really got me into it because she was like a tough, hard-ass teacher, and she really motivated me. She used to say, "Are you a man or a mouse?" And that, as simple as it is, really motivated me. So thank you to her and to Mr. Cunis. But one thing that he used to do when I was 11 or 12, we used to take breaks in class, and then we would plank. So we would do a plank, you know, get down, feet up, push-up position, but on your elbows. And I remember when he used to tell us what Brendan McCullum could do, who was a black cap, he was the wicket keeper, and he's like, he can do 12 minutes. So what did I do? Obviously, I busted my ass until I could do 12 minutes at the age of 12. The first one that I did, I got 6 minutes. And then we kept on creeping up, because we would do it multiple times, weekly. So that kind of, and obviously I loved sport too growing up as a kid. So, you know, Dad was very sporty. He would take me to go kick the rugby ball around. He would do, you know, he would take me to training. My mum would take me to training. My brother would take me to training. I played about 6 sports year round, about 3 in the winter, 3 in the summer. I was a busy kid. I loved sport. But having these teachers as well at school to really push me really reinforced that I really enjoyed sport. And then when I was 11 and 12, I met one of my best friends called Rob, and he had a bench press at his house. So when we were mates, we would do push-ups and like tricep push-ups because he was really good at push-ups. He had this massive chest. He was a smaller dude like I was because we were in the under 48 kg team. So if you're under 48 kgs at 11 or 12, you're a smaller kid. So we were in this team because it was weight limited, and he was really good at push-ups. He was like really strong and really fast. So he got me into push-ups, tricep push-ups, so my chest and triceps started developing and I felt like I was getting strong. And then he had a bench press at home because I was like, mate, how do you have such a big chest? You're 12 years old, man. And he was like, I hit the bench. It's in my room out the back. So I'd go to his house, and when we'd stay and hang out, we would do the bench press at 12 years old. And then we would play Nitro Kart, which is a Crash Bandicoot version of Mario Kart. Anyway, so that's what we used to do. So I started young, and then I got a gym membership at 14 years old. The rest is history. So if I can encourage you to do anything, whether you are starting training now or considering it, or you are a parent and your kid's kind of thinking about it, I'm not saying force them into the gym, but provide an environment where it can be entertained. Take them to sports if they're interested. Take them down to the park, kick a soccer ball around, kick a rugby ball around, grab a softball mitt and throw a ball back and forward. When you go to the beach, take a ball, kick it around, take a frisbee, pull them up and down on a boogie board. Look for opportunities to invest them into physical activity, because it will always pay dividends. If it doesn't turn into their career like me, or they become a professional sportsman like someone else, at least they have the opportunity to find joy in physical activity, because that is going to set them up for life and for longevity in the future. Another thing that I did was, so I was just talking about how I used to train with my mate Rob, but I made it fun. Not on purpose, but I would, at lunch, I would train. So I got a gym membership and I started training, and then so did my mates at the gym. So we all had gym memberships at lunchtime. So literally at lunchtime, while everyone's sitting around hanging out, we would go to the gym. So we would go to the gym because we had an hour for lunch. We would go to school and whatever. Then when lunch hit, we'd meet at the gym. We'd train, and then we'd spend like the last 10 or 15 minutes eating and chatting. All right, we missed out on playing bull rush sometimes or playing touch rugby. We did that every now and then. But most days at school, especially if it rained, we would just hit the gym. So we were going to the gym like 3 to 5 times per week as 14 to 18 year olds. Like, it was such a good habit. And it was fun because we were with mates. We would just talk shit in between. And we would just like kind of look around at what other people were doing. We were trying it. I loosely had a program, so the teacher in the gym was called Martin Stokes, and he wrote a gym when you first signed up to the gym. So we kind of just basically all did my program. Look, it's not what I would recommend someone to do now as a personal trainer, but it's a great place to start. So that was really cool. But yeah, if you can make it as fun as possible, like play sport, lift with friends, do a form of training that you enjoy. This is the stuff that's going to help you sustain it long term. Another thing I did was train with structure. So just like I said, when I was 14, I had a gym program from Martin Stokes. Let's write his name down. He was the man. He was such a cool guy. He was like a bodybuilder, very jacked, and he ran the gym at Christchurch Boys High School. So he gave me a program, but as early as you can, look, man, I fucked around for like 10 years. I still made progress because ultimately I just trained hard and it was fun. So I was training, it was fun. I know how to work hard. It's in my blood. My dad's a truck driver. My mum worked in a sewing factory. I always, saw them going to work. I didn't necessarily see them work. I saw my dad work on school holidays. I used to go and sit in the truck with him and I'd see him do these big days and talk to everyone and drive his truck around and do his work. So it was already in my blood. So I got results from that. But if I had structure earlier on and didn't deviate from the program like I did and just look around and do whatever people did, and then when I left high school, I kind of just did my own thing for a while. If I had structure throughout the entire time, I would have made much faster progress. So I'd highly recommend you getting some structure in your life. And within that structure, I prioritized real fundamental moves. Or let's just say I prioritize the foundations. Squats, bench press, deadlift, tricep dips, pull-ups, you name it, dumbbell chest press, shoulder press, lateral raises. I was doing it all. And the foundational exercises never really left my programs or what I did in the gym, regardless if I was following structure or not. I had a big brother. He was very into training as well. And then when the internet came, I was looking at forums. Was it the healthiest thing that I could have done? Probably not. But I always prioritized the foundations. I wasn't doing some random, let's say functional training, BOSU bullshit, yeah? I was focusing on the foundations and that really got me some strong results earlier on. Last two things. One thing I've already touched on, I trained hard, okay? Hard work is in my blood, so that was a big factor. And I've talked about it a lot on my channel, but if you're training close to failure, that's a really good sign that you're going to build muscle. Whatever rep range you use, whether it's 1 rep all the way up to 30 reps, you're probably going to be building muscle. But one of the really key things that I did, and this is gonna be a nice note to close on, I trained for a purpose. So I played rugby growing up, and then I played touch rugby as well. And then I also played volleyball, softball, and all that kind of stuff. But it was mainly touch rugby and rugby I trained for. So for rugby, obviously there's a lot of contact, so I tried to get bigger. I was a small kid, so that's why I started lifting, so I could try and get bigger. And it did work eventually when I hit puberty and actually grew, but I was a late bloomer. So the purpose for me was actually to get strong for sport. And that really kept me going until I started to train for aesthetics because I knew I wasn't going to do sport for a living. But I really just fell in love with training. But early on, I had a purpose. And this is what I'd like to close the video on. Find something to train for. Find a goal. And I don't care what goal it is because we need to use whatever motivation we have at hand. If you want to, I say this a lot, but if you want to lose weight so that you look better, so that you have a six-pack so you can get laid, I don't care. Use that. Drop body fat, get lean, build muscle, get laid, whatever. It may not sound like the best goal on paper, but if it gets you to take action, use it until you can use something else. Then later on, maybe it's, a more noble goal of, being around for my kids and, being able to protect my family, this and that, but I don't care. I'm not romantic about the goal. If you can use anything to get results for yourself, use it. Example, my mum died when I was 12. I used that as motivation for ages. Basically up until I met my wife and had a family. That was my main driver. It was to make her proud. It's not the healthiest thing because technically she should already be proud of me because she's my mum. Anything that I do on this earth is not going to make her more proud or less proud. Well, maybe if I do terrible things, she probably wouldn't be proud, but as long as I don't get into trouble, she's gonna be proud. But I use that. I almost would think sometimes, would my mum be proud just to G me up to go even harder? Now I don't use that, but initially I did. So what I'm saying is use whatever you can to have a purpose so that you can train and stick to your goals. You need that why. My name's Brock Ashby, I'm your online coach, and thanks for watching. Stay strong.